Hey guys, on today's Book to Screen, I'm going to be talking about Season 4 of Game of Thrones, starring Peter Dinklage, Kit Harington, Emilia Clarke, Lena Headey, and Nikolai Coster-Waldeu. The battle for the Iron Throne continues, and the aftermath of the murders of Robb and Catelyn Stark is still fresh. Tyrion fights against his own family, Daenerys fights for her right to rule, Jon struggles to keep the wall strong, Sansa mourns her family, and Bran continues his quest north. And that's only half the summary, you guys! There's a lot that went down this season. Before I continue into this review, I'm going to tell you right now, this is going to be loaded with spoilers for Season 4 of the show, as well as spoilers for just Book 3 in general, I guess. So if you've not seen all 4 seasons of Game of Thrones, if you've not read the first 3 books, then go away. Goodbye. So, my overall thoughts on this season? Wow, I loved it. It was amazing from start to finish. The writing this season was just top-notch, as always, and the CGI on this show just continues to get better and better. I think Season 4 did a fantastic job of adapting Book 3 in the series, A Storm of Swords. There was a lot of stuff in the second half of the book that I was anxious to see play out on this season, specifically all the major deaths. So I'm just going to get right into all the characters. I got a big old list down here of each house and then all the characters in that house, so hopefully this video is not going to be incredibly long, but let's get going. So, starting off with the Lannisters. Love the Lannisters this season. You know, the Lannisters for the first 3 seasons have always been on top of the game, and it's kind of like this season, things are starting to go downhill for the Lannisters. First off, there's Joffrey's wedding, which doesn't go so well, and Joffrey dies. Yay! I don't think I've ever seen such joy in a fandom the moment that Joffrey died. I am going to miss Joffrey in a weird sort of way because he's such a despicable villain, and there's not really another villain on the show right now that compares to Joffrey, I don't think, in my opinion. But yeah, Joffrey died, and poor Tyrion gets blamed. What the hell? Joffrey still has to ruin things and be like, he did it. I really loved seeing Jaime and Cersei back together. We've not seen them together since Season 1. They only had like a few scenes together in Season 1, and then finally at the end of Season 3 they had that really quick scene together. So it was really great to see them back together pretty much consistently throughout Season 4. I really liked the new Jaime. He was my new favorite character back in Season 3, so I was really interested to see where Jaime was going and how he was going to kind of fit back into the swing of King's Landing. And I was really anxious to kind of see his relationship with Cersei and Tywin and Tyrion. Cersei was just a complete nut this season, just ever ambitious as always. But I do think there was a lot of emotional depth to Cersei this season, especially after the death of Joffrey, and you can kind of just see her loneliness, and she often felt kind of defeated. She still has to marry Loras Tyrell, and she obviously doesn't want to do that. And I think she obviously misses her daughter, and she obviously wants to help Tommen rule in the way that he should rule. But yeah, still, Cersei has her other motives going on behind the scenes. Tyrion, poor Tyrion, he got blamed for Joffrey's death. He was pretty much in jail the whole season, but his jail scenes were just some of the best, some of the most emotional. Don't get me started on his farewell to Pod and Bronn. And I also loved all of his scenes with Jaime. Oh my god, the Tyrion and Jaime scenes were brilliant and so emotional this season, and you could really see that brotherly bond and affection between them. Whereas compared with Tyrion and Cersei, there's just utter disgust and hate there. And Tywin Lannister, you know, I really like Tywin as another villain. He's a much more likable villain than Joffrey, I think. But Tywin, his ambition really came through, his goals, what he wants his legacy to be. Tywin is essentially the man behind the scenes, pulling all the strings. The season finale with Tywin was just excellent. He finally discovers that Cersei and Jaime have been having sex with each other. So yeah, he has that going now, like, oh damn it, what have these two been doing? He realizes that his whole family line is kind of a lie now. And that the ending scene with between Tyrion and Tywin was so perfectly done. Pretty much how I imagined it from the books. Tyrion has just, he's just fed up. He is snapped. He is taking control of his life and just letting Tywin know, hey, I'm your son. I've always been your son. I am a product of what you've made me, and I'm gonna kill you. And he does. And so that is the last speech that Tywin hears, and knowing that his own son just did him in. I can't believe Tyrion killed Shae. Oh my goodness, that was so emotional too. I was crying on that during that scene too. Did Shae die in the books? Someone please tell me, because I cannot remember Shae dying. And did she die in that fashion with Tyrion strangling her? But yeah, really adored the Lannisters this season. You just love to hate the Lannisters. Except for Tyrion. You just love Tyrion. You don't love to hate Tyrion. You just love him. And I like how all the Lannisters ended. It's just, I'm just very interested to see where the Lannisters are going next season. I've only read the first 3 books. I've not read the next books, so I have absolutely no idea where the Lannisters are going. I mean, who's going to be in charge now? I mean, now that Tywin's out of the picture, he was the one running the family and running King's Landing, essentially. I can't really see Tommen ruling the place. I mean, he's so young. Are the Tyrells gonna kind of sneak their way in, kind of whisper in the ear of the king? It does seem like Cersei has some agendas going on, like she's really gonna make some power moves, and she wants Jaime there by her side to help her do it. But I'm very curious where Tyrion is going. It ended with Varys helping him escape the castle. They get on a boat together. I don't know where that boat's going. I always wonder if they're going to go to the Eyrie, because then they'll meet up with Sansa Littlefinger. That would be a really great setup of characters right there. Littlefinger, Sansa, Varys, and Tyrion. I think there's be some great conflicts going on amongst those 4. But yeah, Tyrion may not be going to the Eyrie. He may just be going off wherever. Maybe he'll go team up with Daenerys. Moving on to the Starks. We don't got many Starks left in the world, and Rickon wasn't even in this season. I don't even know where that poor boy went off to. He went with, is it Asha? I can't remember her name. Natalie Tenna. Tonks on Harry Potter, that's all. I'll just call her Tonks. Rickon went off with Tonks. So I don't know where on earth they are. And Bran never even mentioned anything about Rickon. Shouldn't he be concerned about his brother? But speaking of Bran, this is the first time I've really been interested in Bran's story. I did really like Bran in seasons 1 and 2. I felt like his character had some purpose in the story arcs. But season 3, I just kind of found some of the Bran stuff kind of boring. Even though I did like Jojen and Mira, still some of the stuff is just kind of boring, and it's like I wanted the story to go somewhere. And it was kind of the same way this season. It was just kind of monotonous, the same sort of things, the same sort of conversations. And it kind of took when Bran, Jojen, Mira, and Hodor, they got captured by the ex-members of the Night's Watch. But I really liked that, of them getting captured, and there was some hope there that maybe Bran and Jon Snow would see each other, but they didn't. But what really kind of got me the most interested in Bran's story arc, finally, was them getting to that tree, the part where Jojen was having all those visions and dreams. When they finally got to that tree and they were getting there, and all these skeletons just rose up out of the ground and started attacking them, and then, oh Jesus, poor Jojen died. I like Jojen. Why did they kill Jojen? But the sword fight with the skeleton army was so cool. The CG was awesome. And then this little girl just comes out of nowhere and starts throwing these fireballs and blowing all the skeletons up, and Poor Jojen's is on the ground, and he gets exploded, I'm assuming. And then they go into the tree, and there's this freaky old guy inside. I have no idea who the guy is. I need to read the books, apparently, because I want to know who this guy is. And he tells Bran, you know, I'm not gonna be able to let you walk again, but you will fly. And so that immediately makes me think something involving the dragons. Will Bran be able to war against the dragons? Moving on to little Arya. Arya, her scenes were interesting this season. Sometimes they were a bit monotonous, kind of the same things felt like they were just being delved back into. But I really loved her interactions with the Hound. That was just brilliant and hilarious. You know, you got this big, huge dude who's just frightening to look at, and then you got this little tiny girl, and she really holds her own against the Hound, and often kind of puts him to shame. And the thing is, what I really liked about Arya and the Hound is that I feel like they kind of learned things from each other. I think the Hound kind of started to learn a bit more compassion, and I think Arya started to learn to be more brutal, I think. Oh geez, the Hound. You know, I read the books, and it was always left open in the books if the Hound died. So, I mean, he could possibly pop back up. I kind of doubt that. The dude had a broken leg. And Arya just leaves him there to die after that fight that the Hound has with Brienne. The Hound is just begging Arya to, he's saying, kill me, kill me. And she just looks at him, she just gives him this very far away, cold stare. There's nothing in Arya's face. And she just looks at him, and I think the best torture she could give him, because she still hates him ultimately, the best torture she could give him is just to leave him there to die. And she just walks away. Arya ends the season just getting on a ship to Braavos, wondering where that's going. Is she going to meet back with Jaqen? That would be really cool. I would love to see Jaqen come back. Sansa Stark. Oh my god, you guys. I love Sansa. If you had told me back in season 1 that Sansa would be one of my favorite characters, I would have looked at you and said, hell no, that girl is never going to be a favorite character of mine. But then here comes season 3 and 4, and I freaking love Sansa. Her story arc was one of my favorites this season, and it was one of my favorites in the book as well. After Joffrey gets murdered, she's sprinted off to Littlefinger's ship, and so it's basically Littlefinger and Sansa who are together for pretty much the whole season. And Sansa learns that Baelish and the Tyrells were kind of in the know on Joffrey's death. And I think Sansa don't really even give a damn. I think she just wanted Joffrey dead, and she just wanted out of King's Landing. And if she has to leave with Baelish, she has to leave with him. So she just takes that opportunity. What I really like about the Sansa and Baelish scenes is just the fact how weird and creepy it is. But at the same time, they are just so fascinating to watch against each other. You have Sansa, who's very innocent and naive, and she realizes she needs to make some big power moves. And then you have Baelish, who is constantly playing behind the scenes, and he's very snake-like, and he will do anything to get what he wants. And he manipulates Sansa to basically do what he wishes. But there's also this very interesting thing that Baelish, he knows how to manipulate Sansa to do his bidding. But there's also this other thing between them, that Baelish loved her mother, Catelyn. And he's always loved Catelyn since he was a child. And he still loves her in some ways. And Sansa kind of represents Catelyn to him. And she represents the daughter he possibly could have had. And so Baelish does have this kind of weird creepiness going on, that he's kind of in love with Sansa. I don't know if he's actually in love with Sansa, or if he's just in love with the idea of who she represents to him. And Sansa knows full and well that Baelish is in love with her, and so at the same time she's kind of able to manipulate Baelish's feelings because of his affections for her and for her mother. One of my favorite scenes in the book, I have so many favorites, but this is probably one of the top 5s for me, is when Baelish pushes Alyssa Arryn through the moon door. That was so awesome. I love that. It was just one of those scenes. It's a long time coming, and you want to see Alyssa Arryn die because she's such a bitch, and she's a nut job too. That was so well shot too. I just loved how, you know, she had Sansa leaning over the moon door, and then she breaks down, and Baelish comes over, and he's trying to comfort her, but then he's like, you know what? Never loved you, loved your sister, and bang, there she goes. It was awesome. And I like where Sansa and Baelish end the season. I have no idea where that is going. It looks like they're ruling the Eyrie together. Baelish sent Robin off into the world. So I'm very curious what's going on there. Are they going to rule together? Is more of a romantic sort of thing gonna happen? I don't know. Is Littlefinger gonna start getting even more obsessed with Sansa? Is Sansa gonna start to warm up to him? Or, like I said, she knows how to manipulate his affections for her. Is that just gonna keep coming into play? And like I said earlier with the my Lannister discussion, I'm very curious if Varys and Tyrion are going to end up at the Eyrie, and that would be very interesting with those 4 characters. And I just love where Sansa ends. She gets out of, I guess, her little girl thinking, and she just becomes a woman right there at the end. She changes her hair. There's something different to her makeup, and she's wearing like this black dress that's so beautiful and seductive, and I really love this new direction that Sansa's going in. Moving on to Dany and Jorah and that gang of characters. I really loved Dany's arc this season. There were some elements that weren't as interesting, but I still liked seeing her conquer these places, seeking justice against these slave masters, and setting people into freedom. And sometimes people don't want freedom, and she learns that the hard way. And so it's very interesting to see Dany rule and realize that she needs to rule and become a queen, and she needs to kind of let King's Landing go for a little bit and develop her own leadership and rule. We got a new Daario, and this Daario is much sexier, and I approve of this Daario just much more than the last guy. We didn't get much of Daario this season, but we did get some sexual tension between Daario and Dany, which I was looking forward to, and I hope that kind of continues somewhere. I really love that scene where, instead of Dany taking off her clothes like she always does, she just looks at Daario and she's like, you take off your clothes. And he does it, and so we got some nice male nudity for a change. And Jorah, oh Jorah, poor Jorah. You know, I ship Dany and Jorah, even though there's big massive age difference there, but I still ship them. I just felt so bad for Jorah. His past finally caught up with him. His past, you know, he was spying on Dany originally, and that caught back up, and Selmy found out, and then Dany found out, and she banished him. So I have no idea where Jorah's story is going now. I mean, he's one of the very few characters who makes it out alive. Most characters, they die, and he's alive somewhere. So I'm very curious when and if he will pop up. One of the most heartbreaking things that happened in the season finale was when Dany had to chain up her dragons. A man comes in with the burnt body of his daughter and tells her that the biggest dragon, Drogon, burned his child to a crisp, and that devastates Dany because she thought she had a leash on her dragons, and she was able to control them, but apparently not. So there's this really heartbreaking scene where Drogon's missing, but she goes and chains up the other 2 dragons in the catacombs, and she's crying because she doesn't want her dragons to be chained. She wants them to be free. They are wild beasts, and they deserve their freedom. And that made me bawl my eyes out. I was like, I cannot believe I'm crying on this scene, but it was such an emotionally powerful scene. But yeah, I'm very curious where Dany's arc is going next season. I'm very curious what she's going to be doing without Jorah now. So I guess Selmy's going to kind of be taking that leadership position. And hopefully we get some more Dany and Daario action. That'd be nice. And I can't wait to see how big the dragons are going to be next season. They're probably going to be huge. They're already huge this season. They're probably going to be humongous. Moving on to Stannis, Davos, and Melisandre. We didn't really get a lot of them this season. Melisandre, she's just being creepy as always with her religion, and I don't know what her motives are half the time. And why is she always naked? That woman's always naked. And then Stannis and Davos, they just go off to Bravos, to the Iron Bank, to get some money for, I guess, an army and stuff, and that was all very interesting. But the most interesting aspect of that unit of characters this season was when Stannis just comes riding in around the wall when the wildlings are attacking the wall, and his army just comes and pretty much just shows its power and gets rid of quite a few wildlings. Then Jon and Stannis kind of get to meet each other for the first time, which was really awesome. It was really cool to see these two characters who kind of just associate with their own group of people finally meet. And I love that conversation between Stannis and Mance Rayder. That was awesome. Just these two guys, these macho guys, just really trying to display their power and like, I'm the king of the wildlands. I'm the rightful king of King's Landing. So it's like you have these two guys trying to compete with each other in their leadership. I keep waiting and waiting for there to be more with Melisandre, Stannis, and Davos. They're three characters that are kind of a mystery to me, and you don't often get to see them. And each season I keep hoping that there'll be more and more scenes, but it's always kind of the same amount of scenes, but they always have scenes that are worthwhile. And what was that look between Melisandre and Jon? She knows something. She's seeing some visions right there. Melisandre is the last thing Jon Snow needs. He don't need another woman. And so kind of moving from that scene with Jon and Melisandre, let's just talk about that set of people in general. The Wall. Jon Snow, the Wall, the wildlings, and Ygritte. I've always really liked Jon Snow, and I do kind of like his scenes, but his scenes have never really been the most stand-outish to me, the most interesting. I'm always waiting for the Wall characters to kind of go somewhere, and I really felt like Jon and those characters finally went somewhere this season. Episode 9, The Watchers on the Wall. Wow, one of the best episodes, right up there with Blackwater. When I first found out that episode 9 was going to be all about Jon and the wildlings and the Wall, I immediately thought, oh no, I don't think I can watch a full hour of just the Wall. Because sometimes I have a hard enough time trying to get through just some of his scenes that are sporadically throughout other episodes. So I was really worried I'd be bored with an hour of Jon and the Wall. But boy was I wrong, that episode was mind-blowing. Just epic, like an epic scale, like on the level of Lord of the Rings. You got wildlings on either side of the Wall. You got mammoths and giants, and the Wall is outnumbered. I think they said they only had like 100 or something men. I can't remember the number. And then you have Sam, who finally, he mans up, and he wants to protect Gilly and her baby, and they finally kiss. It was so adorable. And then Sir Alistair, I finally really liked his character. He's such a bastard half the time, but I really liked his character because he took his leadership role, and he kind of admitted to Jon, because Jon earlier in episodes previous was saying, we need to get more men, we need to block off our exits, and Alistair was like, no, not listen to you stupid boy. And so he finally owns up to that and says, you were right, Jon, but we'll go back tomorrow hating each other. And Ygritte, oh, I saw the Ygritte death coming, but it was still so heartbreaking. I love how it was shot. The two of them, Jon and Ygritte, they just meet, they just look at each other. She has the bow ready to shoot at Jon, but she doesn't do it, she hesitates. And it's her hesitation that gets her killed ultimately, because the little boy behind her puts an arrow through her chest. And so then Jon and Ygritte are there, he has her in his arms, and it's so sad and poignant. And just a part of Jon's life is going away. And I love the pan out after she does die. I love the pan out in slow motion, and behind them everyone's fighting and there's fire. It's so beautifully shot. And why did Ghost only get like one little scene in that whole battle? Jon releases Ghost and he rips out the throat of some guy, and then that's kind of it for Ghost. I think they ran out of their budget by then, especially because the Wall is so huge, and then you got the mammoths and the giants, and I think a budget went towards all of that, so I think they just had a little bit left for Ghost. But wow, the CG in Watchers on the Wall, wow, stunning, just so stunning. The scale of that wall and then the huge army down below. Very curious where Jon's story is going. When I was talking about Stannis, Jon and Stannis get to meet. Are their scenes going to kind of be a unit now? Is there going to be some fighting to regain the North? And speaking of the North, the Boltons have the North. There wasn't a lot with the Boltons this season, but all of those scenes I think pretty much mattered. Ramsay has poor Theon. Poor Theon is he's just a shell, but Ramsay is able to manipulate Theon into his bidding, and Roose Bolton finally makes Ramsay, I guess, a non-bastard, so instead of Ramsay Snow, he's now Ramsay Bolton. If I had to say there was a villain to compete on the level of Joffrey's villainy, I guess I would probably go to Ramsay. He's really sadistic. Okay, let's move on to some random characters, starting with Oberyn Martell. Jesus, that guy. Oberyn Martell's sexy, sexy, sexy. When I started reading the third book, I heard a lot of hype about the Red Viper, aka Oberyn Martell, and that he was such a huge fan favorite. But when I read the book, I didn't understand the hype. I liked Oberyn, okay, but I didn't understand why people were so crazy about Oberyn. So when he finally popped up on the show, I loved Oberyn Martell. I liked him much better than the book, and I think he was much better portrayed on the show than in the book. His character was just so fleshed out, and he was given so much depth, and he just had a lot more going on, and he was much more involved in things. And knowing how his character ends in the book, I was crossing my fingers praying that his character would not die. I was like, I want Oberyn Martell to just continue. He is such a terrific character and just a breath of fresh air in the King's Landing set of characters. Another highly emotional scene that kind of put me to tears was when Tyrion's in the jail cells and Oberyn is telling Tyrion about the first time he met Tyrion as a little baby and telling him about how cruel Cersei was being to him even as a child. And then Oberyn just continues to tell him that story and it's really emotional. And then he stands up and he says to Tyrion, "I will be your champion." And it's just, the music just swells up and it's like, yes! But then in the back of your head, you're thinking, oh no, he's gonna die. And so it finally gets to the episode, The Mountain and the Viper, and it's a pretty epic fight. And Oberyn is like, I'm not going to die today. And then he starts doing his whole Inigo Montoya, aka the one guy from The Princess Bride. He starts doing his whole, my name is Oberyn Tyrell, you killed my sister, prepare to die. That's what it immediately made me think of. And so the fight goes on. Oberyn just keeps getting more angry, and he wants the Mountain to confess that he murdered and raped his sister, and also pinpoint that it was Tywin who gave the orders. And so his arrogance kind of gets in the way, in his pride, and the Mountain ends up kind of making him stumble, and then poor Oberyn, he gets his eyes gouged out, and then his brain explodes. I normally try to watch a lot of the more brutal graphic stuff on Game of Thrones, but I just cannot watch the part with Oberyn getting his eyes and head blown out. I literally had to cover my eyes. I'm such a wimp. I really don't even know what happened there technically. I've not been able to force myself go back and look at the shots. So did it literally show his brains blow out? That's kind of what I want to know. But Oberyn Martell, you will be sadly missed. He was one of my favorite new additions to this season. Kind of moving on to another random character, Margaery. I really loved Margaery and her grandmother this season. Margaery, she knows that she's sexy and she puts her sexiness to use. And she's not stupid. She is extremely intelligent, and I love that. And I love her scenes when she's up against someone like Cersei. And she knows how to play Cersei. But the thing is, Cersei knows what Margaery's up to, too. They're both very extremely intelligent women, and I love that dynamic of two intelligent women playing against each other. So I guess, is Margaery gonna marry Tommen now? Poor boy. He's just a child, but hey, he gets a hot wife. Very curious where the Tyrells in general are going to go. Marjorie, she's going to marry Tommen. Is Loras going to still marry Cersei? I doubt Loras is going to marry Cersei now that Tywin's dead. Next random character, Brienne. I really loved Brienne this season. She was one of my favorite characters last season. I loved her scenes with Jaime, and I loved her scenes with Jaime once again this season. And there was a lot of insinuating that Jaime and Brienne might have some crushes on each other. It's like, I hope that goes somewhere. But Jaime sends Brienne out to find the Stark girls, Arya and Sansa, and Podrick goes right along with Brienne, and I really liked that dynamic. That was really cute at times. One of the best Brienne moments, though, was definitely her fight with the Hound, which is brutal, and they're just pounding away at each other, and it looks like they're really punching each other. And I just liked that. I liked that there was this strong female character beating up a man just as strong as she is, and I liked that dynamic, and it wasn't underplayed, and because of the fact that she's a woman, they were both on equal ground. Oh, good lord, did I get every character, you guys? This video is probably gonna be, oh good lord, very long. If I missed anybody, or if I missed any pivotal scenes, let me know below and we can talk about it. But let's talk about the season finale, the very, very end. I've seen a lot of stuff that people did not like the ending with Arya on the ship soaring out into the sunset to Braavos. It didn't bother me that much. In some ways, I thought that was a very perfect scene to end with because, like I've been saying, the Lannisters have always been on top. But now, I think the Starks are in some ways back on top. Sansa has her freedom away from King's Landing. It looks like she's going to start making some moves. Arya is finally away from the Hound, and it looks like she's going to start making some moves. So I think ending with Arya on the ship just really symbolizes a lot, and this shift of who has control and who doesn't. Once again, spoilers if you have not read the third book, you guys, I am serious. The way book 3 ends is incredibly shocking. It ends with the fact that Catelyn Stark is undead. I'm not quite sure what that is about. She just pops up at the end, and I think she's known as Lady Stoneheart. I can't remember if that's the name they directly give her at the end of the book, or if that's the name they give her in the next books, but I've learned that is what they call her. And so what me, and I think most book readers were expecting, was this really wild ending showing Catelyn Stark, and that did not happen. And I was waiting for that. I even sat through the credits thinking there might be, you know, like a Marvel ending credits scene, and nothing happened, and I was really looking forward to seeing that scene, and it didn't happen. But I don't think it ruined the finale for me. I think some people have been over dramatic saying it ruined the finale for them, that they didn't show that, but it didn't ruin it for me. I think that's just an element they're either going to carry through or they're not. I'm not sure how important Catelyn is. But yeah, I was a little disappointed, and I think my hopes were a little let down that they didn't show that scene. But either way, I was still incredibly happy with the finale. I'm loving the new direction where everything is going. I want to know where everything is going. I think I might have to read the next couple books because I don't think I can wait a whole nother year. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and if you liked this book to screen, you may like these. Bye guys.